Imagine the picture-perfect family living in the luxurious confines of Beverly Hills. The Menendez family appeared to embody the American dream, with wealth, success, and the charm of a high-society lifestyle seemingly at their fingertips. Yet, beneath this shiny facade lay a darkness so profound that it would culminate in one of the most notorious murder cases in American history. On a fateful night in August 1989, the Menendez family's idyllic life shattered as two brothers, Lyle and Erik, committed an act that would forever change their lives and captivate the nation. What could drive young men to murder their parents? Was it a premeditated plan born out of greed? Or was it a desperate act stemming from years of torment and abuse? As we unravel the layers of the Menendez Brothers case, we delve into a chilling narrative filled with psychological intrigue, familial loyalty, and the unsettling complexities of the human mind, with media coverage saturating every angle of the case. It became impossible for the public to look away. This case is not just a story of murder. It is a haunting exploration of trauma, wealth, and the often invisible scars of childhood abuse. As we dig deeper, the question lingers: what happens when the facade of a perfect family crumbles? To fully grasp the motivations behind the shocking crime, we must first explore the Menendez family dynamics. Jose Menendez, a Cuban immigrant, worked his way up from humble beginnings, eventually establishing himself in the entertainment industry. He became a co-founder of a major film studio, enjoying success and accumulating wealth that afforded his family a lavish lifestyle. His wife, Mary Louise, was a strong-willed woman who devoted herself to raising their two sons, Lyle, born in 1968, and Erik, born in 1970, were the embodiment of privilege. They attended prestigious schools, participated in sports, and were groomed for success. However, the glittering exterior masked a darker reality. Reports of abuse within the Menendez household began to surface, painting a picture of a family far from perfect. As Lyle and Erik grew up, the fear of their father's wrath loomed over them, contributing to a toxic family environment. Jose was known to be authoritarian and demanding, instilling in his sons a relentless pursuit of perfection. Lyle later described how he and Erik lived in constant fear of their father's temper and controlling nature. They reported enduring years of emotional and physical abuse at the hands of their father, creating an environment where love was conditional and safety was an illusion. This cycle of abuse bred a culture of silence within the Menendez household. Conversations about feelings or distress were taboo, forcing the boys to bury their emotional turmoil beneath the veneer of a happy family. The brothers learned early on that vulnerability was a weakness and that expressing pain could lead to severe repercussions. This set the stage for the tragic events that would unfold on that fateful night in August 1989. That on August 20th, 1989, the Menendez family home became the scene of a gruesome double murder. That evening, Lyle and Erik returned home late, reportedly after attending a movie. What transpired next remains one of the most debated aspects of the case. Shrouded in a fog of conflicting narratives, as the brothers entered their home, they encountered their parents in the den. Lyle and Erik claimed they found Jose and Mary Louise engaged in conversation, oblivious to the horror that was about to unfold. In a moment of rage and desperation, the brothers shot their parents multiple times with a shotgun, resulting in a chaotic and bloody scene that left investigators baffled. Jose was shot in the back, while Mary Louise was shot in the face. Indicating a brutal and intentional attack. After the murders, the brothers crafted a narrative of shock and grief, portraying themselves as innocent victims of a horrific crime. They called 911, claiming they had discovered their parents dead and attempting to divert suspicion away from themselves. Their immediate reaction was a carefully calculated performance designed to elicit sympathy and portray them as grieving sons rather than cold-blooded killers. But as detectives began piecing together the events of that fateful night, inconsistencies in the brothers' stories began to raise red flags. The investigation unfolded with mounting intrigue as detectives discovered evidence suggesting that the murders were not as spontaneous as the brothers had claimed. In the days following the murders, investigators worked tirelessly to piece together the events that led to the Menendez family's tragic fate. Initially, detectives considered the possibility of a botched robbery or a random act of violence. But as they delved deeper, the brothers' inconsistencies in their accounts began to paint a different picture. The Menendez brothers began living extravagant lifestyles shortly after the killings. They spent significant amounts of money on luxury items, including cars and vacations, raising suspicions among investigators. While many might view a sudden influx of wealth as a blessing, for Lyle and Erik, it became a double-edged sword that would ultimately expose their deceit. Detectives scrutinized the brothers' actions. It wasn't long before they emerged as the prime suspects in the murders of their parents. The sheer audacity of their spending habits, coupled with their calm demeanor following the crime, led investigators to believe there was more to the story than met the eye. The investigation took a critical turn when the detectives uncovered a chilling piece of evidence. The brothers had purchased a shotgun shortly before the murders, contradicting their claims of being unsuspecting sons thrust into a nightmare. This revelation would soon become a focal point in the case against them. In March 1990, just months after the murders, Lyle and Erik were arrested. Initially, the brothers maintained their innocence, insisting they were grieving sons mourning their parents. However, the prosecution painted a different picture, alleging that the murders were premeditated and motivated by greed. The initial trial began in 1993, drawing extensive media attention and captivating a national audience. It was one of the first high-profile cases to be broadcast on television, leading to a media frenzy that blurred the lines between fact and sensationalism. The courtroom became a stage for a real-life drama, as both the prosecution and defense presented their narratives to a rapt audience. The prosecution presented evidence of the brothers' extravagant spending and financial motives, portraying them as cold-blooded killers who murdered their parents for money. They painted a damning picture of two young men who, rather than mourning their loss, celebrated their newfound wealth. Meanwhile, the defense sought to introduce the concept of battered child syndrome, arguing that the brothers had acted out of fear and trauma from years of physical and emotional abuse inflicted by their parents. The defense strategy relied heavily on the testimony of expert witnesses who discussed the psychological impact of abuse on the Menendez brothers. They argued that Lyle and Erik had endured years of emotional and physical torment, leading to a psychological break that prompted them to kill their parents. This strategy sought to elicit empathy from the jury, framing the brothers not as murderers, but as victims of a tragic upbringing. Experts testified about the psychological effects of child abuse, presenting evidence of the brothers' traumatic experiences. They claimed that the boys' actions were a result of a lifetime of fear and manipulation rather than a cold, calculated decision to murder. In a chilling moment during the trial, Lyle described how he and Erik lived in constant fear of their father's violent outbursts, explaining that they felt trapped in a nightmare from which they couldn't escape. However, this defense was met with skepticism from the prosecution, who dismissed the notion that the brothers were mere victims. They argued that the brothers had plotted their parents' murder for financial gain, asserting that the timing of the murders aligned with the brothers' growing desire for independence and wealth. This contrast between the narratives presented by the defense and prosecution would ultimately shape public perception of the case. As the trial progressed, the media circus surrounding the Menendez brothers intensified. The case became a national sensation, with daily updates and sensational headlines dominating the news. The public was captivated by the dramatic twists and turns, and the courtroom became a stage for a real-life drama. The brothers' privileged upbringing, coupled with the horrific nature of their crime, created a perfect storm for media exploitation. Talk shows and news programs dissected every detail of the case, from the brothers' lavish spending habits to their courtroom demeanor. The dichotomy between the brothers' public persona as grieving sons and the gruesome reality of their actions made for sensational viewing. This intense media scrutiny ultimately played a significant role in shaping public perception of the case. While some sympathized with the brothers due to their claims of abuse, others viewed them as calculating criminals who had betrayed their parents. The media frenzy turned the courtroom into a battleground for public opinion, where perceptions of innocence and guilt were influenced by sensational headlines and emotional appeals. After a lengthy and highly publicized trial, the jury delivered a verdict in 1994. The Menendez brothers were found guilty of first-degree murder. The decision shocked many, as the defense's arguments about abuse and trauma had resonated with a substantial portion of the public. After a lengthy and highly publicized trial, the jury delivered a verdict in 1994. The Menendez brothers were found guilty of first-degree murder. The decision shocked many, as the defense's arguments about abuse and trauma had resonated with a substantial portion of the public. In the subsequent sentencing phase, both brothers received life sentences without the possibility of parole. The judge's decision reflected the severity of their crime and the calculated nature of their actions. In the courtroom, Lyle and Erik expressed disbelief, their tears betraying the emotional turmoil they felt. Despite the evidence and testimonies against them, the brothers continued to insist they acted out of fear for their lives. Their life sentences marked a significant turning point, not just for the brothers, but for the entire narrative surrounding the case. The story of the Menendez brothers became a complex interplay of themes: abuse, wealth, family loyalty, and the consequences of violence. It sparked discussions about child abuse and the psychological ramifications it can have on individuals, forcing society to confront uncomfortable truths about family dynamics. Following their convictions, the Menendez brothers became household names, their case serving as a focal point for discussions on crime and punishment in America. They became symbols of the dark underbelly of wealth and privilege, prompting viewers to reconsider the narrative surrounding familial abuse. In interviews following their sentencing, Lyle and Erik maintained their innocence, expressing their belief that they were victims of their circumstances. They described how their childhood trauma haunted them, arguing that they had no choice but to kill their parents to escape the cycle of abuse. Their testimonies evoked a mixed response from the public. Some sympathized with their plight, while others condemned them as monsters. The media continued to cover the Menendez brothers extensively, turning their story into a cautionary tale about the dangers of wealth and the complexities of family relationships. Documentaries, books, and even a television miniseries were produced, further entrenching their story into the public consciousness. This fascination with the Menendez brothers spoke to a broader societal curiosity about the intersection of trauma, mental health, and crime, creating an ongoing dialogue that transcended the courtroom. The Menendez brothers' case had a significant impact on the legal landscape surrounding cases of familial abuse and mental health defenses. Their trial was one of the first instances where the battered child syndrome defense gained considerable attention, challenging the judicial system to recognize the psychological complexities of such situations. The use of this defense in a high-profile murder case opened the door for discussions about mental health in the courtroom, compelling the legal system to consider the emotional and psychological factors influencing individuals' actions. As a result, the case highlighted the need for more comprehensive mental health evaluations and legal proceedings, prompting changes in how courts approach similar cases. Culturally, the Menendez brothers became icons of the crime genre, representing the allure and horror of familial betrayal. The complexity of their story resonated with audiences, sparking debates about morality, justice, and the consequences of violence. As their case continued to capture public attention, it underscored the notion that even the most privileged families can harbor deep, unresolved issues. As the years passed, the Menendez brothers' story evolved into a haunting narrative of tragedy and intrigue. Their case served as a catalyst for discussions about child abuse, wealth, and the psychological toll of family dynamics. It pushed society to confront uncomfortable truths about the nature of familial relationships and the hidden scars that can linger long after the wounds have healed. Lyle and Erik Menendez remain incarcerated, their lives forever altered by the choices they made. They have sought to use their platform within the prison system to advocate for mental health awareness, emphasizing the importance of addressing childhood trauma. Their voices, once silenced by their actions, now serve as reminders of the complexities of the human experience. The Menendez brothers' case serves as a chilling reminder that the facade of a perfect family can mask unimaginable horror. As we reflect on their story, we are left with the unsettling truth that even those who appear to have it all can harbor dark secrets and unresolved pain. The Menendez brothers' case remains a chilling reminder of the complexities of human behavior and the haunting effects of childhood trauma. As society continues to grapple with issues of abuse, mental health, and the consequences of violence, their story serves as both a cautionary tale and a call to action that in an age where discussions about mental health are becoming increasingly prevalent. The Menendez brothers' narrative highlights the necessity of recognizing the unseen scars that can shape individuals' lives. Their legacy is a poignant reminder that the quest for understanding, healing, and justice must persist, not only for those directly affected by violence, but for society as a whole. The Menendez brothers' story may have begun with a tragic ending, but its legacy will undoubtedly endure, prompting ongoing conversations about the delicate interplay of family dynamics, mental health, and the choices we make in the face of unimaginable circumstances.